Hi, I'm Logan Shaner.
And I'm Ben Van Camp.
We're here for Connection Interrupted to review Gears of War 3. Gears of War is a third-person cover-based shooter. It's the second sequel in a trilogy of games. Personally, I have never been a huge fan of Gears of War, but I've played every single one of them since the first one.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, Ben's a big fan of mine, or big fan, sorry.
Yeah, you're so popular.
I know. So we're going to go ahead and get right into our review. For gameplay, Gears of War tuned up its engine, made running faster, made shooting better, made jumping over cover more fluid. It really stepped up with the gameplay, I think. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, Epic said they made it a more faster game because they said Gears 2 felt kind of clunky, like you're walking around as a machine, not as a person.
Yeah,
but
it made it a lot more fluid,
they
a
upped
lot
the
faster
speed on
pace.
this.
Yeah, it definitely stepped up gameplay a lot. So I give gameplay a 9.
And I gave gameplay a 9. Another thing on gameplay I found was that the guns, they buffed up the assault rifles a lot.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about that in our multiplayer.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. Just a sec. For sound, Gears of War gun sounds have always been pretty fantastic, and in this one they're really no exception. Voice acting was phenomenal in this one. Better than the other two by far.
Yeah,
By far. Would you say that?
Every single character has their own persona.
Yeah, I definitely was shined even more so in this one than the other ones. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
The only gripe I had with the sound was the vehicles were a little corny.
Yeah, they kind of all sounded like the same old machine type sound.
Yeah. The bosses sounded great. The enemies they sounded good too.
Brumaks.
Yeah,
that's my favorite.
Yeah, they all sounded pretty great. So I give sound an 8.
And I gave sound an 8.5. My favorite sound in this game is actually the sawed-off shotgun. Just a thump.
I don't really have a favorite sound. For graphics, Epic, is it Epic?
Yeah, Epic.
Sorry,
Games.
I can never remember. Epic constantly boasted during development about their new engine that was going to make Gears of War bigger and badder and look better and play better. And I feel like it lived up to that standard, but it could have done better. Even in HD, the textures during cinematics sometimes take a few seconds to load.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
That's very frustrating, especially for a game that came out in 2011.
Yeah.
I feel like it just, it wasn't that fantastic.
Well, not compared to other games. Like
Yeah.
You see Battlefield 3 trailers.
Yeah, I mean, even Halo Reach looks great in cinematics.
The Gears of War isn't too
Yeah.
based around graphics. It'd be nice to have a little better, but I'm not complaining.
The
that much.
lighting looks fantastic,
Yeah,
especially during gameplay.
Yeah, they actually advertised a lot on their new engine, talking about lighting. They said that they can actually manipulate a lot more with their new engine.
The fire was a little lacking, I have to say that. But the lighting itself was fantastic, but definitely the fire was a little...
Yeah, the fire, they do more of a glow around the whole thing, so that you don't really notice how undetailed it is.
Yeah, it's kind of a trick they use, kind of like Modern Warfare uses its high frame rate and low textures.
But the emulsion, when you see like the Lambent explode, you see the emulsion glow. It just looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think they put a little more time and effort into the emulsion than they did the fire, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like, they
Since
could
they're
have...
like the new enemy, they'd focus
Right.
more on that.
Yeah, they could have done a little... I still think they could have done a little more with fire. It's fire, 2011. Fire isn't like the hardest graphic to make anymore.
I think water's the hardest, isn't it?
Yeah, water is definitely hard. Halo 3 stepped that up a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Halo 3 definitely was an innovator there. But for graphics, I gave graphics a 7.
And I gave graphics an 8.
The story for Gears of War has always been kind of a action-filled story. I personally think it's always been a little lacking, but in the third one, it did the same thing. It was. I feel like it was relatively predictable. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's kind of, it's been done before, but I still love it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad story at all.
Like
but
the world they put them in, they've made so many books and
yeah,
spin-offs.
the atmosphere for Gears of War was definitely fantastic.
Yeah.
But that was more so the Gears of 1 story, where it was getting everything out there, and somewhat the Gears of 2 story.
Yeah.
And I'd say even a little bit the 3, but for the most part, the 3 was just wrapping everything up, and I feel like the story was very predictable, and there wasn't too many, cinematic parts of it or heart-wrenching parts of it.
I'm not going to reveal anything about the game story, but the ending seemed a little rushed.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the game was drug out a little bit almost. It felt like the first act and the third act were really drug out when the fifth act, the most important act in my opinion, was a little rushed. And it's
the third act, there's something pretty important happens.
Yeah, well, we like we said, we try not to do any spoilers, but I feel like part of the games were drug out a little more than they should have been, and parts of the game were rushed, which really played into my score for the story, and I gave it an 8.
And I gave the story a 9.
Multiplayer is really where you will see me and Ben differ. Ben has always been a big Gears fan, and I have been not so big of a Gears fan. It's not that I dislike Gears, but I mean, I played every Gears, but it's never been one of my top games.
Multiplayer for me is just fun whenever I play. Gears of War 2, there's a lot of problems off day 1, which kind of ruined the game for a lot of people, but I still played it a bunch. In Gears 3, with their dedicated servers and all of that, it just seems so smooth and fun.
Yeah, Gears 2 was, honestly, it was extremely unbalanced.
It was based around shotguns all the way.
Yeah, pretty much it was who can get to each other faster with a shotgun, and that really was bad gameplay, honestly. It was not fun at all for me. I just was like, well, I mean, what's the point of me even playing?
But Gears 3, as I mentioned before, they buffed up the assault rifles by a lot, and they added in the Retro Lancer, which it makes it a lot more equal and allows you to not always rely on the shotgun.
Yeah, assault rifles were definitely buffed up a little bit, and not a little bit, but a lot, and it really balanced out the gameplay a lot.
And something they added with the Hammer Burst was a first person, like an aim down sight, which that's the only gun that can do that in this game, which makes the Hammer Burst more of a wanted weapon.
Yeah, it's more of a mid to long range weapon.
Because hardly anybody used it compared to Lancer in the previous games.
Yeah. Still, even with the changes, I still felt like the multiplayer was a little stale for me. I just didn't enjoy it very much, and it just it was the same multiplayer that I'd seen before with a little bit more better with a little better balance. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's all I really wanted was Gears 2 with better balance, because Gears 2 is perfect besides balance for me.
So my score for multiplayer is definitely 6.
And my score is 9.5.
Horde mode, if you've played any of the other Gears, is 50 waves of Lambent or Locust.
Yeah.
And it's just 50 waves where you try to survive, and if you make all 50, you won. I know in the first 2 there was an achievement for getting the wave 50, sorry, and I got both of those because I'm always been kind of a Gears of War.
I can never seem to get a full group, so I've never gotten to
I
wave 50.
would play with my cousins, and we would do it quite a few times.
I always
but
have to do it with random people.
I feel like once you get past like round or wave, sorry, I keep saying round.
Yeah, it means it's the same thing.
It bothers me a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like once you got past like wave 15, 16, you got up into the higher teens and into the 20s, it really stepped up the gameplay.
I found that wave 17 or 16 in Gears of War 3 Horde, it seems to get a lot more intense.
The new Horde mode, basically Horde 2.0.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, they basically made a Gears of War version of Tower Defense.
You can buy different things, and the barbed wire fence.
Silverbacks, you can buy spikes, electric fences.
I know it'll get to where like spikes and electric fences will slow them down at first. It'll start to hurt them. It'll kill them, and then it'll get to a point where they can't even pass it.
Yeah, but your defenses slowly weaken as they go through them. So
yeah,
you have to keep track of that between rounds.
I definitely feel like it really stepped up the gameplay a lot. Horde mode was pretty much the shining part of the game for me, honestly. Even I've always loved the story for Gears of War, but even so, the Horde mode is fantastic.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't play Horde all that much in Gears 2, but Gears 3, that's the most played mode for me so far.
They also had another mode called Beast Mode, which is essentially you on the other end of Horde, where you're the Locust and you're trying to kill the cogs.
I have actually not played that much, but I've heard mixed reviews.
I played it quite a bit for the review, and honestly, it felt like Gears of War Horde. It was clunky, a little sloppy, and extremely disappointing compared to Horde 2.0.
Yeah, it looked like a good idea, but you can't really beat Horde.
Well, I mean, honestly, I feel like it was very disappointing compared to Horde 2.0. And that really played into my score for it. It was like, if it would have just been a Horde review, I definitely would have been a 10 out of 10, no question about it.
Since I haven't played Beast Mode enough, I still gave it a 10 because Horde is just amazing.
Yeah, so Ben gave it a 10, I gave Horde/Beast Mode a 7.
Okay, now we're going to move on to controls. The game feels amazing.
Yeah, it's always played to its strengths, and that's no exception in this game. It's fluid, and it's I mean, I honestly didn't have too many gripes with it. At first, it's a little clunky, and mid to long range shooting is a little frustrating.
Yeah, it takes some practice, but since I played Gears 2, it was easy for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not using a long shot or a hammer burst, it's relatively hard to get a target from that far away.
It's Retro Lancer, don't even try, but Lancer, if if
Yeah.
you practice, you can get
You
it.
can pulse the trigger, and
Yeah.
it's still even then it's still kind of difficult. But reloading changed a little bit. If you played either the first two, you know that you would press reload, and there would be a meter, and there would be a bright white bar, which would be
Yeah.
if you hit it, then it would be a perfect reload.
Or
and
they
then
call it an active reload.
active reload. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. Is that what it's called?
Well,
When
yeah,
you get it
that's
right
just
on the
what they
dot.
call it. Yeah.
An active reload. Sorry. And then there's a slightly grayer bar where it's quite a bit longer. Would you say like 5 or 6 times longer than that one?
Yeah. Like
And,
every gun has their own.
Yeah,
unique active
everyone's
reload.
all of them are a little different.
Yeah.
But I feel like that changed a little bit. It was almost a little easier, which I was really disappointed to see because it wasn't that hard in the first two to get an active reload.
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of catering to casuals, which isn't a bad thing. But I just felt like it was a little hard to adjust to, and the controls were a little clunky at first. But once you get into it, it's really not that bad at all.
But one thing that bothers me in multiplayer is when you need, well, in any game mode really, when you need to pick up a teammate, it doesn't make it the highest priority. Like, it makes picking up ammo of a higher priority than picking up your teammate
Which
sometimes.
that's very disappointing, especially in multiplayer. It's
Yeah.
like, your team is everything. So for controls, I gave it an 8.
And I gave it 8.5.
So my overall score was a 7.5.
And my overall was a 9.
So our connection interrupted score for Gears of War 3 is 8.25. And
I think it should be higher, but that's just me because I'm a coghead.
right, which is you're a big Gears fan.
Yeah.
I feel like honestly, if multiplayer would have been fresher and not so stale to me, it would have been. It could have easily broke 9.
Well, what it feels like to me is that how people say Modern Warfare 3 that went to COD XP or something, or they went to any event for Modern Warfare 3, they said it feels like a better version of MW2, and this kind of feels like a better version of Gears of War 2.
It really does feel like a better version of Gears of War 2, but I would say that Modern Warfare 3 looks like an expansion of Modern Warfare
Yeah.
2. And you'll hear me harp on Call of Duty a lot because, back in 2007 when Call of Duty 4 released, I was a huge Call of Duty fan. I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning every night with my friends, and then up at 10 a.m. and playing all day.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan, and I was a huge fan when World of War came out. And when Modern Warfare 2 came out, I was not the biggest fan. It really was a little disappointing to me. And then Black Ops came out, and Black Ops honestly killed the series for me. Black Ops was not was not a bad game.
It's just so boring.
It wasn't a bad
really.
game, but it just didn't. It took some of the problems with Modern Warfare 2 and just increased them, and that was disappointing for me.
The only reason I think a whole bunch of people played Black Ops was because it's Call of Duty.
Exactly,
I'm gonna be honest.
the
I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that comment, but I mean,
the name sells games, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like Alienware every computer.
Yeah,
The
I was
name
thinking
sells
that.
it. But I feel like even with that, Modern Warfare 3 it's gonna be at least a decent game.
okay. Now back to Gears 3.
But Gears was definitely a solid game. The story, wrapped up the story nice. The characters are each unique, just as they have been in every other
My
installment.
personal favorite is Baird. I don't know about anybody else, but Baird is the best.
Yeah. But I think multiplayer is really what kept the score a little lower for me, honestly. But that's our review. I'm Logan Shaner,
And I'm Ben Van Camp.
and we're Connection Interrupted.